Tulsa Titans are those in our city who aren't backing down. They stay positive when things look hard. They lead with integrity, even when it requires sacrifice. They take their family life as serious as their work life. This show features them to teach and inspire the next generation among us. Welcome to Tulsa Titans, highlighting our local business professionals who are making a difference. Today I'm joined by Kevin Rueb. Kevin, how are you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm good. So Kevin is the CFO of Whiptail Midstream. He is also a part of Make-A-Wish, the Shooting Stars. So I'm excited to dig into some of that. Kevin, can you take just a minute and tell us more about yourself?
Yeah, certainly. So like Kellen said, my name is Kevin Rueb. I'm CFO at Whiptail Midstream. Also, I recently became a board member at Make-A-Wish, Oklahoma. The way that kind of came about was in 2017, my company participated in the Shooting Stars event for Make-A-Wish, Oklahoma. It's a clay shoot. There, I met some of the staff from Make-A-Wish, and we started discussing the organization. During the conversation, learned a piece of critical information that I hadn't known, which was Make-A-Wish is a local chapter helping local children, meaning if I'm in Oklahoma and I donate my dollars to a local chapter, those dollars go directly to impact local kids with critical illnesses. And that was near and dear to my heart. You know, anything I do in terms of philanthropy, stuff like that, I really like to help out local before I, broaden to a national look. When we met, we started talking about how I can help and how I can impact, and how we could get young people earlier in their careers excited about working with charities. From there, we started the Young Professionals group of Make-A-Wish Oklahoma. We put on 2 events each year, a brunch called Waffles for Wishes and a golf tournament called Golf for Wishes. And over the past 3 years, we've raised over $100,000, which is, like I said, has gone to support local children with critical illnesses.
That's awesome, Kevin. And what I find interesting, you're not the first person. Actually, most of my executives are part of a non-for-profit or do something else with a good majority of their time outside of their business. Do you feel like your engagement and the difference that you're making with Make-A-Wish helps fuel you at Whiptail?
Oh, absolutely. I think at Whiptail, we strive to be a better company. We strive to make our company better and grow, and just like all other companies. And certainly at Make-A-Wish, there is it's a very real purpose and a very real cause, and it's right in front of you. You meet these kids and families who they've gone through some really rough stuff, and your first motivation is, hey, let's get these people help. Let's make these kids wishes and get some positivity and happiness in their life around what they're doing.
That's awesome. When we talked about so making an impact, you had some time as an executive. We were kind of off recording talking about it, but you've made some changes as you reflected over this last year. So what are 3 of the things that you're deciding to do more of, and then what have you cut back on?
Sure. So what I am personally doing more of is one, family time. And that's come a little more naturally, especially you've got the minor inconveniences of kids running around at home and in the background. But you know what? Out of that, I can't be more thankful for the time I've got to spend with my family and my daughter at home during this past year. Another thing I'm taking more of is podcasts. The reason I'm taking more podcasts is because I've listened to several, and they highlight different people and what they do, their motivations, what gets them moving, and what keeps them going. From scientists to athletes and musicians, listening to the insight that they can provide around why they're successful and why things are going well for them. It's pretty motivating. Third thing that I'm taking in more of is the outdoors. Naturally, you get cramped up at home. The walls start feeling like they're closing in, and you want to get outside. And man, family time outside for us. We've spent a lot of time playing tennis. Spent last summer sitting by the pool quite a bit, and we love riding around on the golf course in the golf cart. As for what we've done, what we've cut out or what we've done less of, like we've talked about, try to get the bad out. And certainly one thing that I've cut out as a result is news. And just to expand on that, because that may sound weird, is I try to stay up on current events. I feel like the problem is I feel like news cycles have become so redundant. I hear news and I want to be able to make my own opinion. I don't want to be force-fed news, and that's kind of off-putting. So I try to get my news from news apps that are a little less biased in one way or the other, as opposed to just being told what to think on the news. Another thing I've cut down on or tried to cut down on is social media. Seems like it started out as a great tool to keep up with friends and their lives. It's quickly devolved into somewhat of a wasteland of politics and judgment. And I'm not all for that. What I am for, though, is people like you who started up Tulsa Titans, and you're sharing stories of positivity. We need to share more of that. When COVID came around, there was the Some Good News Network or whatever it was with John Krasinski. And everybody loves that because he was sharing positivity and good news. And I think we need more of that. And then finally, the last thing I cut out or tried to cut out is complaining. It's a bad habit and cultivates negativity. And I want to focus on the positive and again, move forward and grow.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've talked to, including myself, several executives, and it's been almost refreshing. Like everything's felt disordered at first with kids at home, and business has changed and things kind of slowed down, or we had Zoom meetings, so you're not driving to places. But everybody said, hey, I got a little more time out of that, and reflecting, I really was able, like you did, to kind of refine what I consume and kind of get out what needs to be taken out. How so a lot of people don't find it easy, and I'll kind of go down that trail. So social media, especially, to understand that you're checking that too many times, or that you are buying into somebody else's story without just getting straight facts and thinking. What were some of the processes around you eliminating those things? You just turn off all the notifications? Did you delete it? What worked for you?
The first thing I did was I deleted Facebook, and then I went back on myself. And there's a reason, but I've tried to be good about it. So first thing I did was I deleted Facebook and said, okay, I'm going to stay off of it. And then immediately I was one of the organizations I'm part of has a Facebook group, and that's one of the ways they contact people. And I go, oh man, I need to get back into it. And so I said, okay, I'll allow myself that. And then when people have a birthday, I'll say happy birthday to them on Facebook. But other than that, I'm not busy. I'm not up late at night scrolling through what everybody did that day, because sometimes that turns into some of the negativity.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, if it was a negative, Facebook knows what your preferences are. So I get hooked into one video, and 2 hours later, I've wasted 2 hours on really funny videos just because they know me well enough. Artificial intelligence has gotten good enough that it knows the preferences that serve me those videos. What I did, and I think that there's power in this, just deleting it. I think there's power in just acknowledging something has to change and making a change. Mentally, it makes you more aware. I created more pages on my iPhone, and I moved it to page 8, to where if I wanted to go to a post for New Wave or do something with one of the groups I'm involved in, so we encourage men on another group. There's some things you can do that are positive, but that's not where I got hooked, right? So I moved it, and then I turned off every notification. And so all the apps, I went into the settings and just, unless I get in it and schedule to get in, I can't see those little red, 4 or 5 signs or email. Because I don't know if you're like me, I don't like things unchecked. And so for me, even email, when new stuff comes in, I want to address it and eliminate all that and have it nice and clean, right? But it takes me off of what's really important.
Yep. So what I did, the compromise I made to myself was you can delete an app off your home screen, but it still runs on your phone. But you have to go to on my iPhone, I have to go to search and search, spell it out, find it, and then click on the app. So that it's like moving it to page 8. It's just not in your immediate purview. That way you're not constantly, when you open up your phone, you don't see the little, blue outline with the F and go, oh, hey, I need to check in on Facebook.
Yeah, awesome. When you make time, like I said, executive at Whiptail, you're volunteering in several places. You're doing a lot locally with Make-A-Wish. What's one habit that you know you have in your life that helps you be effective when you're running in so many different directions?
One habit is, one thing I try to do is, and it may sound easier than it is, or some people may look at it and go, "Oh, you're one of those." I try to wake up early, and so I wake up early, and then the other thing is I try to tackle my big items first. If I at least get one thing moving or get one thing going, and get that completed during the day, as many of you guys have and as many people experience, your days can go down a whole rabbit hole with people calling and days shifting from one thing to another, from what you intended to what it actually is. So if you can at least get some momentum on the day by getting something done earlier, it seems to help, at least with the momentum and progress for your day.
No, that's awesome. I find the same thing. And it is hard for me. It was a couple weeks to make the change to get up earlier. But I'd say it to anybody who has little kids too. I mean, you can get as a professional and then come home, and then my kids wake up at like 6 sometimes, right? You get to where you don't have any me time, and you can almost run on fumes if you keep that cycle up. So getting up that little bit earlier allows me to just have some quiet time, and it's all mine. I can do whatever I want with it.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
No, that's awesome. So I know you're part of Make-A-Wish, but when you get up and then you tackle the day, and you've been very, very consistent, what's a why for you? Why get out of bed? Why get up early? Why tackle the day? Why invest in other people? Where's that come from?
Well, the why is, it starts with my family. I, I've grown up, and my when I was growing up, my parents didn't have a whole lot. I'm I'm my mom went to college. My dad didn't go to college, and so seeing them and struggling a little bit, we were what I'd call middle class, but wanting to provide a better life for my family, see my daughter do better than me. That's 100% the why. And then with Make-A-Wish, the why's right in front of me. The kids, you go meet those kids, and I mean, the first thing is you see how it's hard. It's so hard to put yourself in their shoes because of all the things that they've gone through. These kids are going through hospital visits, multiple hospital visits, several rounds of bad news, and still at the end of the day, a lot of them have smiles on their faces because they're kids, and their families have to shoulder a lot of that burden, and seeing these moms and dads who are still positive, and still just so nice and respectful and giving to the world. That's certainly a why for me, with them, is to give back and help them and give them a little relief from what they've been going through.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's almost inspiring too when you see somebody struggling in a way that you're not or can't comprehend, and they still have hope and they still share joy, especially in kids.
It sure.
I worked a stint for I think 5 years at a hospital. I was going through college, and all the older professionals there kind of walked around heavy, and you'd see people, young kids, all the way to some of the patients just that were just joyful going through the hardest things. And I think that's so inspiring.
The main reason I got involved with Make-A-Wish, and it fell in my lap just from meeting them at the Shooting Stars event. But when I started working at Whiptail, I was looking for a charity to work with, and in 2015, this was 2016. In 2015, my daughter was born 8 weeks early, and was in the NICU for 6 weeks, and that was so hard on us. And thankfully, we thank God every day that she was just born small. She just needed to eat a lot and grow more. There were some kids in there who had much bigger problems, and seeing that, that was immediately a why again, as to how do I want to give back of my time, my efforts, and my money, And you know, for some people, there's personal causes. There's muscular dystrophy association. There's families in crisis. You name it. There's a charity for almost everything. I feel, you know, one of my reasons is finding a charity that you can feel passionate about and give effort toward, because if you're not invested in it, it can show. The people who you're working with, you know, they want you to be there and they want you to be present when you're there. So being present and being mindful of that it can help the charity in so many ways.
Yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of people I know, and I've been this person before. When you're too busy, you may feel great that you can throw a couple dollars towards a worthy cause, right? But really, giving is getting involved, and I think you and I talked about this offline too. It's really cool. You know, a lot of people want to be an executive or own something, and you've really climbed the corporate ladder. But in a non-for-profit, you can take those same gifts and talents and how you've been stretched at work to really bless a whole organization with kind of mind sharing your time.
Yeah, you know, as mentor for this young professionals, the YP group, that was when we started the thing. I wanted to keep two promises, and there were two sides to it. One was for the kids and the families of Make-A-Wish, and then the other was for the young professionals. When I was a 20-something, when I was 25 and got out of college, I was very self-centered, and not in a bad way, just because I had my career and I had my growth that I wanted to do for me. And so it didn't provide me, I didn't provide myself a lot of time to go and think about others. And so there's these young professionals that we have in our group that are thinking about others, are doing great. And so what we want to do is we want to make a promise back to them and empower them early in their career to make them feel and be making impactful decisions for the company and for their organization. I mean, you know, our young professionals, we facilitate the events that they're putting on, and it's very much the footprint of what they're capable of. I mean, they go and ask for sponsorships, get donations, get, you know, donations of food and beverage, etc. And what comes out is the direct output of the efforts that they've made. Again, you know, we've raised over $100,000, and that's all money that went back to help kids that have critical illnesses, that, you know, we want them to be able to have their wish.
That's awesome, man. Creating organization, but actually empowering the young professionals to have ownership in what they're accomplishing.
It's gone well, and I couldn't be more proud of our group. We've had such a bright and talented young group of people who are motivated to be with us, and it's been a blessing from hopefully both sides. You know. Very
cool. So in this season of life, and it could be even somebody from your childhood, who's somebody that you admire?
So we talked about it a little bit, but I don't want to keep harping on it, but these kids and these families in Make-A-Wish, you have to admire them, and you meet them, and it brings a tear to your eye. These the things that they go through. They've had their lives upended by so much by bad news, and when you meet them and you talk to them, again, they're positive people, and I myself would have a hard time being that positive, and it's not like, oh, hey, I meet one or two families that are kind of positive. Almost everybody I meet has this positive outlook on life, and they have such heartwarming stories to tell, and the admirable traits. They're courageous, they're strong-willed, and they're fighters. And I mean, everybody should aspire to be that. Just that, you know, it's all a story of perseverance, and these kids have it. They're strong-willed.
That's awesome. Well, you may have alluded to this earlier, because like you said, you form the YPs and you've got these young professionals owning what they're doing. But throughout that organization and in years there at Whiptail, how do you take the values you have, the motivation to get up out of bed and get after it as a leader, and those actions and distill it throughout those organizations?
Yeah, again, it's empowerment. You want to um, back to my previous examples. You want to give your future generations, whether it's people you're working with, your friends, your inner circle. You want to give them a better shot than what you had, and leave them with something better than what you started with. And that's what we're trying to do with the YP organization. We started in 2016, and we didn't have the formula. And I'll tell you right now, we still don't have the formula. But you know what? Where it is today, we're way better than what we were yesterday, and where we're going to be tomorrow is going to be even better than that. And so, giving this group empowerment to say, hey, this is your organization. Let's make it something, and seeing them just go excel in doing that and grow it. It's just inspiring, and it's heartwarming as well. It's a positive. It's something to be positive about, and it's something to motivate you and get you out of bed.
That's awesome. Excellent advice, Kevin. Thank you for that. One final question. So I know everybody listens to podcasts, loves to read. I always love to understand what people are reading and how it's blessed them. What are 2 books that, let's say the house is burning down, you run back inside and you want to go back through those, the 2 books you saved, what are they and why?
Well, and I hope this hasn't been said yet. It's a popular book, and it's an old book, To Kill a Mockingbird. And maybe the reason that I'll tell you is different than anybody would give. But to me, it's a story to maintain sympathy and understanding, despite how the rest of the world acts. One of the main messages is not to lose your faith in humanity and goodness. And so, having that attitude, having all that, and the book is it's Harper Lee. Again, my daughter's named Harper, so tells you how much I like the book.
Right.
Great book. And then the other book that I would take with me is more a leadership book. It's called Lincoln on Leadership, and it's something I read a while back. I'm a big admirer of Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln. If folks out there don't know the story, I encourage you to read his story, other than what you know of him already. And so he was such an interesting man for so many reasons. He had a lot of failures in life, and he still persisted. He lost his job, failed in business, was defeated in several political positions, and then in 1860 he became president. It outlines the book. What it does is it outlines the core principles of how he persevered, not just that he persevered. So some of the tenets that he used were persuade and reinforce. Don't coerce. So don't be deterministic in how you act. Another thing was to seek out and encourage innovation. He was a big fan of technological innovation and using that for their betterment. Right. And then also another interesting tenet of the book was managing the balance between flexibility and consistency. Meaning that if you're consistent, if you keep doing things the same way, it may always be the same way. If you're flexible and you adapt, that can be good, but it can also be bad because nobody knows up from down at that point. And so if you can manage that balance between flexibility and consistency, then you've got the right recipe for growth. And then also the final thing was he had many of his employees, many of his compatriots in the White House made mistakes, and people do make mistakes. And one of the big parts of the book was forgiving mistakes helps build trust. If you forgive those that make mistakes around you, and they're truly sorry, they tend to trust you more. So there's some very good values and principles detailed and outlined in that book.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Well, I'll tee you up real quick because I want to know how we're going to open you up so others can get a hold of you if they have any questions. But before that, if on the Make-A-Wish and what you guys are doing locally with the YPs, if somebody wants to be a part of that or look at volunteering, how do you suggest that they do that? They just Google search it, or what would you suggest they do?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can, if you go to the Make-A-Wish Oklahoma website, you can look up anybody's information on there. Also, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Kevin Rueb, Rueb, and we're happy to talk to you. Happy to bring you in if you're a young professional and you're interested in getting into philanthropy and charities. We would love to talk to you.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Kevin. Well, and thank you everybody for being a part of this. Kellen Cowan with New Wave Solutions. Kevin, thank you for giving.
Thanks so much, Kellen. Enjoyed it.